G'day Real Thinkers, Jason with you again. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to share my thoughts on the horror film Insidious. Ooh. So everyone, put your spooky caps on. Or your spooky glasses. Thankfully this wasn't in 3D. So, Australian director James Wan is responsible for the Saw franchise, so he has his roots in torture horror. He certainly knows how to handle a horror film because that franchise just won't quit. It just keeps on going and going. So, with his approach to Insidious, he's mentioned in interviews leading up to the film that he wanted to put on screen a spooky sort of haunted house horror film in that regard, and that's my favourite kind of horror film. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge fan of The Exorcist, so I try not to sit down to any recent horror films and compare them to The Exorcist. In fact, I try not to compare them to any other horror film at any other time. There are only a handful of horror films that have ever truly terrified me. I'm talking about finding it hard to sleep at night, getting the chills, and even during the day is sort of thinking about the spookiness of the movie. Those films are The Exorcist, The Shining, The Sixth Sense, and believe it or not, the others. Now, it's hard not to compare Insidious to movies like this when within the first 20 minutes you are reminded of every single one of these films. I mean, it isn't paying homage. I mean, I guess it is paying homage, but it's just, and it's not a blatant rip-off either. It's just very clear that the director and the filmmakers, the people behind this movie, Insidious, have seen and are representing these horror films. I think it's sort of trying to make you feel comfortable about the fact that, I don't know, there's something that says this is definitely a horror film. There's no subtlety to it. The characters aren't introduced in a nonchalant way. You're not peeking in on them. You're not introduced into their lives into a normal way. From the get-go, horror film. So here are the horror characters, here is the horror setup, here's the creepy kid. Everything about it says horror movie. Now, it starts off effective. Insidious does start off well. It starts off kind of spooky, things going bump in the night, doors closing by themselves. You know, the whole ooh, haunted stuff is going on. But then, for whatever reason, around about the third act, it turns into a monster movie with action sequences. It turns on itself. It stumbles and it fumbles the horror ball. Having said that, it's still an entertaining film. It's just Insidious doesn't quite know what it wants to be. Did it give me chills? Yes. Did it startle me with cheap scares? Yes. But did it also have me rolling my eyes at obvious scare tactics and boring plot progression? Yes, very often. Which is a shame because there's nothing awkward or intrusive about the CGI effects in this film. The scares are very genuine. There's even a few laughs in the movie, a few jokes are in there. Look, Insidious checks all of the boxes except two: character and performance. And they're kind of two very important ones. The characters are wafer thin and the performances aren't there to beef them up in any way. Aussie actress Rose Byrne gets it done by the book, but there's nothing outstanding. And unfortunately, someone forgot to tell a very plain Patrick Wilson to bring his A game. It feels like he just sort of got the paycheck on this one. There's not much emotion seeping out of him at all. If Insidious set out for just cheap thrills and cheap scares, then it succeeded. It's that kind of movie. If you see it with the right crowd, then yes, it makes your skin crawl at times, but you're going to forget about it less than half an hour after you leave the cinema, unless you're talking about it with friends, which is what I did, but it just helped, drive all this anger in the right direction and realise what exactly went wrong. There are some memorable and creative scares, like I said. They truly deserve to be in a timeless haunted house masterpiece, but Insidious is not that. It's been let down by a very tacky third act that changes the subgenre of the film from haunted house to monster movie, which didn't help its cause. 2 stars out of 5.